Facebook. Okay, so like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about understanding food labels a little better, and I'm going to help you better be able to read them so you're more aware of what you're putting in your body and what you're consuming, because to us here at Thrive, that's really important. So, my name's Emily. I'm a nutrition response testing practitioner here at Thrive, and my goal is to help as many people as I can holistically and naturally through the methods that we use here to better help their health ailments, such as anything from if you have indigestion, headaches, even infertility issues, fatigue, chronic pains. Those are all things that we help people with here at Thrive, and it's definitely one of my goals to help as many people as I can, because it's really kind of a tough world out there sometimes, so it's nice to get some natural relief without having to be put on any type of prescriptions or drugs or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and start with writing this little triangle up here. So bear with me. I usually write this beforehand because it's easier. But so we'll have at the top here, we have our symptoms. And then down here in the corner, we're going to have what we call organ dysfunction. Kind of like my handwriting sideways is a little dysfunctional. And then we have nutritional deficiencies. We're just going to put it as that. All right, so this triangle is really important because it gives you a good aspect on the way you can look at things with food, your organs, and then your symptoms that you're actually experiencing. So to start, if you have a nutritional deficiency that occurs, which most of us do because we are kind of drained of a lot of nutrition through the different environmental stressors that we're put under, then in return, when that organ or area in your body is not getting what it needs, it's going to dysfunction, and then you're going to have symptoms. So symptoms don't just appear overnight because they hate you. What happens is there's some sort of dysfunction that's actually making the symptom occur, and the dysfunction eventually leads to what was the root cause of a nutritional deficiency. So we can get nutritional deficiencies through 5 different main stressors in our environment. So one of them is chemical toxicity, metal toxicity, immune challenges, food sensitivities, and even scars on our body are actually a stressor on our bodies and organs, surprisingly enough. And we're able to identify those 5 stressors here at Thrive, and if they're bothering you and where they're bothering you in specific. So for example, since we're kind of talking about food tonight in particular, I'll use the stomach for an example. So if your stomach comes up as an area that is stressed and needs attention, and we're testing you here, we're able to let you know, okay, your stomach is under stress because you're actually suffering from a wheat intolerance. So you're going to be nutritionally deficient because most of us, on average, do consume wheat or gluten. And if we're unaware that that's actually kind of zapping the nutrients that we are getting, then we're going to have that organ dysfunction, and maybe we have something like acid reflux, or we have something like indigestion or constipation, and that's going to be the symptom coming from that organ dysfunction. All right, and I'm going to do a little demo for those who don't know what we do here so that you're better able to understand that. Kirsten, come on up.
Oh.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, we use a form of muscle testing here at Thrive, so it's non-invasive, and everything we do is done based off what your body's telling me. So I'm never guessing on anything that we're doing. Your body's always telling me what it needs. So Abby, put your arm up for me. Perfect. So I am going to push on Kirsten's arm. She's under no stress standing up here, so when I push on her arm, she should be able to hold it up just fine, and she can, so that's great. Then let's say she is under some digestive stress, then I would come here, and if I touch her stomach and push on her arm would go weak. That's letting me know that that area or organ needs attention. You can rest. I'm going to explain something. So the way that lets me know that is kind of like hypothermia. So when somebody goes into hypothermic shock, they lose the activity first in their limbs, because your body is trying to keep your core and your vital organs alive and warm. So your arms and your legs are the first thing that kind of go. So when I'm testing her, if I'm pushing on her arm and an organ is not under stress, her body is paying attention to the fact that I'm pushing on her arm. If I push on her arm and her stomach is under stress, her body does not care that I'm pushing on that arm. It's worried about that area that I'm touching. So the arm then goes down or goes weak, what we call it, and that is how I'm able to tell whether or not an area needs attention. I'll have you do it again for me. So if her stomach wasn't the issue, and I touched on her stomach here and pushed on her arm would stay strong, and that just lets me know that that's not an area that needs attention at this time. If her thyroid is the issue, and I touch her thyroid and push on her arm's going to go weak because her thyroid is what actually needs the attention at this time. So with that, then what I'm able to do is take our whole food supplement products that we have here, and we have hundreds of products for hundreds of different things that come up, and each one is individual to everyone's program. So what I do is, if her stomach is upset and I know that there are 20 products I could pull from to help her stomach, I'm going to pull one and I'm going to have her hold it, and if this is not the one that's going to help her, then when I touch her stomach and push on her arm, it will go weak, letting me know that's not going to fix the issues that she's having. So I'll go to the next thing. So then I'll have her hold the next thing, and I'll touch her stomach and push on her arm, and this is the thing that's going to help. So her arm's going to stay nice and strong because that completes the cycle of action, and that's what's going to help strengthen up that area. And the way that the body is able to read these different types of energies is through, we actually all have some sort of energy or electricity to us, you could say. So just like the supplements in this glass container have an energy, the sun has energy, we have energy. Our bodies are able to read that energy, and that's how I'm able to communicate with her body through the muscle testing. So when I grab both ends of these, this little tube here lights up. So I'm using my body's electricity to light up the tube. So when I grab this end and she grabs that end, and then she puts her hand flat, and then I touch her hand, I'm able to light up the tube because my electricity is talking to her electricity. So it's just like, you can feel the energy, or the heat, I should say, from the sun through a window. You're able to feel that through the glass, just like the supplements are able to energy is able to go through that glass, and that's how my electricity is able to talk to her electricity. Thank you, Kirsten. You're welcome. Okay. Good. Now we kind of have a little bit more info about how that works. So through that, we are able to test for things like food sensitivities. So you could be eating a great diet, and let's say you are consuming eggs daily because eggs are really great and they're a great idea for breakfast, but that actually could be something that is actually upsetting your body. So we're able to tell things like that by getting tested. All right, so let's talk about why food is so important to start. So first, we have to eat it to survive. It's essential. So food it does more than just fuel our bodies. Our gut is in charge of a lot of things, and it helps protect a lot of things in our body as well. So a really big one that it's in charge of that not a lot of people are aware of, it's really impactful on our moods. So you may be aware of that if you eat something and then you feel really angry, or you eat something and you feel happy, you have energy. That's something that food does affect, is our mood. And that can be even things like anxiety and depression. So a lot of our hormones are produced in our gut, so it's important for our gut to have a nice balance to it, or else we're going to feel those things like anxiety, depression, maybe even things like OCD if our gut is that messed up. Energy is a big one. So it's like putting bad gas in a car. You don't want to do that. You want to fill your body up with good fuel, and in return you're going to get good energy. If you're filling your body up with not such great fuel, you're going to in return lack energy and lack nutrition in that aspect. Kind of touched on it, but hormone balance is a huge thing. And I'm not even talking about mood hormones, but also like especially for us women, hormones for menopause, menstrual cycles, pregnancy, all of those things are really impacted by our gut and what we're eating. And then if you think about it, the only thing that goes inside of our bodies is the things that we're putting in our mouth, whether it's liquids, foods, medications, supplements. The only thing that's touching the inside is what you put in your mouth, so it is really important to think about what you're consuming. And then you can use it for good or for bad. So you can use food to keep you living longer, healthier, happier, or there's some foods that maybe are more on the detrimental side that kind of slowly kill us as we're going on, being honest. Okay, so where to start with food labels? Let's get to that. Now that we know why food is so important. So, the first place that I start on a food label is on the ingredients list. So, the ingredients list is where I start because that's the easiest place to go right away to see if I want to purchase something or not. So what I'm looking for is the first 3 ingredients in particular. So the ingredients list is listed in order from the thing that's occurring the most to the thing that's occurring the least. So if you go and look at a food label and the first thing that's listed on the ingredients list is sugar, that's going to have the most abundance within that list. Probably not going to be a great option for you. So if there's anything within the first 3 ingredients, like any type of sugar, any type of highly processed oil, or any type of corn or chemical in particular, then I would definitely rethink that option when you're going to buy it. So we'll look at one of our examples here. So just on the first page, we can look at the Coke one. So, sorry, Facebook. You can go, this is a 20 fluid ounce Coke bottle label. So, first we have, the first ingredient is carbonated water, and then the second ingredient is high fructose corn syrup, which is sugar, made from corn, which is probably also GMO corn, so it's basically chemically grown corn, processed as sugar. So, if we go look at the actual label part, there's sugar, 65 grams. So within that 20 fluid ounce of Coke, there's 65 grams of sugar. And then on top of that, we're gonna go, the next ingredient is caramel color. So that would be a chemical. And then phosphoric acid, natural flavors, caffeine. So natural flavors is code for a lot of things, but it can be code mostly for like things like MSG, and things that make it addictive. So that's what they're trying to do. Coke's trying to get you addicted. And we all know that that's to be true for people who drink pop. It's really hard to stop drinking pop. Yeah.
When you take 65 grams, how does that do in measurements that we would use every day? How many tablespoons, or would that be roughly?
I don't know off the top of my head to convert from grams to tablespoons. It would be something definitely to look up. But on average, you definitely should not be consuming, ideally, 65 grams of sugar, period. So, but tablespoon-wise, that's a good question. We can, after the seminar, we can do some online converting, and I'll let you know. That way we have a better reference. Good question, though. But yeah, so that would be something to look for. So I always start with the ingredients. When looking at the ingredients, like I said, we're looking for things like sugar, and also words you can't pronounce are going to be really important too. Yeah, I'll definitely use that. Thank you. Yeah, we can grab that. So Kirsten brought up a nice little graph we have here. Okay, let's play a fun game. Does anyone want to guess what has the most sugar in it? So we have pop, tea, juice, Gatorade, vitamin water, milk, Izzy, it's like a fizzy juice drink, the Nature Valley bars, some Activia, an organic Greek yogurt, and a Snickers. Snickers? Any?
The juice.
The juice? Okay, we'll go through them. The Coke.
That's a can, 8 ounce?
Yeah, it is a 12 ounce can.
Oh, 12 ounce.
Yeah. So can Facebook see okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, perfect.
All right, so here we go. So the 12 ounce can of Coke, we have 39 grams, which looks like this. So I don't know if anyone here would just sit there and eat that much sugar, but that's what that looks like. Then we have 54 grams in the tea, which is a one to check out because a lot of people think, okay, tea, healthy, I'll drink it. This is a lemonade iced tea in particular. Then next we have this cranberry juice, 65 grams of sugar in that. And that's going to be added sugar. It's not going to be the natural sugar that's occurring. Gatorade, 34 grams. We have vitamin water, 23. And then milk, 22. This Izzy drink, 29. Nature Valley bar, 11. Activia, 17, which is crazy because this is supposed to be for gut health. So that's that. 18 grams in the other Greek yogurt, and then 27 grams in the Snickers. So
65.
yep, 65 with the cranberry juice.
What was the Coke again?
The Coke was 39 for just a 12 ounce though.
Oh, okay.
So everything was pretty high, especially when it's added. That's the biggest problem, the refined added sugar. Thank you so much. All right, then what else we want to look for, I was going to say, is words you can't pronounce. So those are going to be chemicals that they're putting into things. So let me see here. When you look at the Lucky Charms, the Lucky Charms label, there's not much you can't not pronounce, but like trisodium phosphate, yellow 5 and 6, red 40, blue 1, those are all going to be added colors and dyes which come up as chemical toxicities. So those are all going to be not good. And then sugar is a big one. We'll talk about that one more because it's so important, because sugar has, I think, at least 70 something different names it can be labeled on a nutrition label. So when you're looking at your labels, I really want you to pay attention to this one, because sugar in itself depletes nutrients right from your body. So even nutrients that we can be giving you here, your really good concentrated supplements, when you take those, they're there to help your body. Sugar can zap that nutrition right out of your body because that's its job. It just kills everything good. Causes inflammation. It's also a carb, so a carbohydrate is just inflammatory in general. So a lot of negatives around sugar. Also, it's processed. A lot of sugar we're seeing nowadays too is processed from corn. So like I talked about, high fructose corn syrup. So there's high fructose corn syrup, there's dextrose, which is made from corn. There's maltodextrin, which is made from corn. And then I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but that corn is probably going to be raised from GMOs, and it's synthetically made and then grown and then used to process into these types of sugars. So when it's synthetically made, again, that's going to be something that's a foreign object to our bodies. So on top of it already being sugar, it's going to be also a chemical that we're consuming. So a lot of bad stuff going on there. You also want to avoid things, so I'll put chemicals up here, and I'll list the main ones. So MSG is going to be a big chemical that is in a lot of our foods, especially fast foods. I know it's like gets its rep from Chinese food, and yeah, it's definitely in there, but fast foods is another big one. MSG makes things addicting, so that's why people are addicted to fast food, because, well, number one, it's a huge convenient thing. Obviously, people are on the go all the time. But number two, it's addicting because there is MSG in it, and it makes our brains want more. So,
That's why.
yeah, that's why. And also, what it can do is it can leave you feeling hungry even after you've eaten, because it doesn't actually give you any nutrition whatsoever, obviously. Then, anything that you can't pronounce, like I said, so GMOs will be on here. Let me think, chemical-wise. Also, things that are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides are going to be a big thing, which is most of our food, unfortunately. We just have to kind of know the source. So knowing a local farmer or somebody that you can get food from, that you know how it was raised, you know where it's coming from, is a huge, huge key to staying healthy. Especially when it's grown in the same area that you're living in, is another benefit from our body, because it goes through the same phases of going under the sun that we go through. So it's really important. And also supporting your local farmer, your local farmers area is really important too. So that's good. And then we want to avoid a long ingredient list. So the longer the list, obviously, the more processed it is. So we'll go to our examples here. So we have Lucky Charms, very, very long ingredients list. Please do not feed your children Lucky Charms or yourself. I know it's hard. I grew up eating Lucky Charms. I'm okay, but could be better. I'm just kidding, huh? Okay, but anyways, so what we want to do is we want to have a shorter list, and then if you go to the second page here, we have a label for eggs and for ground beef. So literally the label for eggs is going to be eggs. So one ingredient. Whew, awesome. That's what we are kind of striving for. We want to get food in its wholest form so that we don't have to worry about an ingredient list. When you're looking at ground beef, you're going to get ground beef. When you're looking at eggs or avocados or, well, bacon is questionable, so I won't say that one. But things like that, you're looking at whole foods. You don't have to worry about an ingredients list. Now, if we go to the last page, we'll kind of go over some things that when you start your health journey can be confusing because they're marketed as good for you, or, you know, heart healthy, or they're good for digestion, those type of things. So the first label up here is actually some light and fit yogurt. And so yogurt's targeted as good for you because it has probiotics, and it's good to get your dairy in, and you need to have X amount of servings a day. So if we look at the ingredients list first, what I always go to, so we have the cultured grade A non-fat milk, water, blueberry puree, fructose, and then modified cornstarch, natural flavors, carmine for color. I don't know about you, but carmine doesn't really sound that good. Sucralose, malic acid, and then to maintain freshness, it has some more bad stuff in it. So when we go to buy a yogurt and we're doing it to help our gut, I don't really think, particularly in my expertise, that that's really going to do too much for your gut but hurt it. And then when we go over to the actual nutrition facts, we go to the sugar, and it has 7 grams of sugar in one little container. So it's really a lot of sugar for the amount that you're going to be getting. And then I want to look at total fat. So the fact that this label says 0 grams of fat in yogurt means that I know that they definitely processed it, because yogurt should have fat in it. That's another thing that you want to look out for is different marketing labels like 0 fat or low calorie or no sugar added. So one time I was at the store and I saw this maple syrup, and it said no sugar added, and I just was like mind boggled. Okay, maple syrup is sugar. And I look at the back of the label, and it's literally just all chemicals. Like, it was not one bit of real food in that maple syrup. So you're basically just filling yourself full of chemicals if you eat that. Like, eat the real thing, don't eat that crap. But anyways, then at the bottom here, here's another one that is like, okay, you need your grains and stuff. So we have Nutrigrain bars. I know it's kind of hard to read that label. I couldn't really get the best one. But we have whole grain oats, enriched flour. So when something says enriched or fortified, that means that the good things that were in it were taken out and then replaced by synthetic, quote unquote, good things. So we don't want to be consuming that, because basically it's full of fake vitamins, which again is mimicked in our bodies. It's synthetic. It looks like a foreign object to our bodies. So enriched means that it was taken out and put back in. Then we have things like other added vitamins that are going to be synthetic. So they try to make it look good by putting those in, but they're not from a whole food source. Then we have things like vegetable glycerin. So that's going to be things that are made from like different vegetable oils. So another big one is for processed oils are veggie oils. So vegetable oils are going to be things like canola oil, corn oil, that aren't so great for our guts. They're highly processed oils. Then we have, there's some corn fiber, there's fructose. Oh, here's the part that makes me laugh. So we have sugar, dextrose, and fructose. So there's 3 types of sugar in there, and I don't know why you need that, but they think you do. So sugar, dextrose, fructose, all types of sugar. And then the rest, there's 2 other sugars in the filling, invert sugar and corn syrup. So even more not great stuff for us. So those things that are marketed towards us and labeled as good is really just the company and the marketing of the foods that's trying to trick us into getting to buy their product. So that's a big thing to watch out for.
So it's the name that can draw a person in, the marketing
Oh, yeah.
that makes you think it's healthy.
Exactly.
But when you look at the ingredient, it's not really healthy.
It's not, yeah. So I would have not even spent my time looking at that, because as soon as you look at that label, there's like at least 30 ingredients there. It's like, just put it down, because that 29 out of those are going to be really bad for you. So next, what we want to make sure that, when we kind of were just going off of that, we want to check out those labels that they're putting on the front of things. So don't always believe a label. Do your research and look at the back, look at the ingredients list. So here are some things that the marketing companies are catching on. So gluten-free, we all know that that's becoming a huge trend, and in my opinion, it's a great thing, because a lot of the gluten in our country is sprayed with glyphosate and things like that, so it's very chemicalized and it's very hard for us to digest. It's not good. But just because something says gluten-free doesn't mean that it's not full of crap. So you have things, they take out the gluten, but they put sugar in it instead, or they take out the gluten and they put chemicals in it. So you still have to watch out. A really funny one that gets me is when they label corn tortillas gluten-free, because they are they're naturally gluten-free. So you're going to be probably paying $2 more for that bag of tortillas just because it has a gluten-free label on it. So don't let them trick you. Really look at it. So corn's a grain, so it doesn't have gluten, but it's still going to be something that's not ideal for you, just because of probably where it's being raised and where it's coming from. Another big one, like I talked about with that maple syrup, is sugar-free. We want to make sure we're really looking at anything that says sugar-free, because it can say, don't quote me because I've just seen this before, but it can say sugar-free or low sugar, even if there's like things like sucralose in it, because sucralose is actually a chemical. It's not technically a sugar. But anything with ose, you're going to just think ose is sugar. Like I talked about, things that are fat-free. So if you get a yogurt and it's fat-free, that's going to be highly processed, and actually we want that good fat. If you're going to be eating something like that, you want to do whole milk yogurt. You want to do, if you're drinking regular milk, you want to do whole milk. So you don't want the fat taken out of those things. When you're getting your beef or anything like that, get the 85% lean, 15% fat, because you want that good animal fat, because it's essential for our bodies to be able to actually absorb the nutrients that we are eating to get those essential fatty acids. Things that are labeled natural. At one point, all natural means that at one point something in that ingredient list was in whole food form. So that's all that means. That doesn't really mean anything. They put natural on there, again, to make us think that it's good for us. Things like light. So it's light, or, you know, a pudding cup, a light pudding cup. So again, it's going to be processed. Multigrain's a big one. So multigrain doesn't necessarily mean good for you or heart health. It means that there's some grains in there. They're, number one, they're probably not sprouted, which makes them less beneficial for us. And number two, they're really inflammatory and they're probably coming from a not great source as well.
I have a question. Is
Yeah.
oatmeal,
Oatmeal, so
and like, is that,
it's a grain.
yeah,
It depends on each person. So some people do not tolerate oats very well. If you are going to eat oats, what I do recommend doing is soaking them overnight. It helps your body better be able to digest them.
in water?
Yeah, water, or you could do like almond milk. You look
Yeah,
look
like
up.
they do those.
Yeah, overnight oats.
Yeah.
It's a good idea if you're gonna eat them.
Oh.
And I would definitely get like a better quality brand versus
Right.
like Quaker or something like
Yeah.
that. You're just gonna have a better quality food that way.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. And then things like, I'll even talk organic. So just because something's labeled organic doesn't mean that it's top of the notch. So organic it still contains pesticides. It is better, I will say, than conventional, and I will encourage you to buy organic produce, especially for certain products. But just because something's labeled organic doesn't mean that there's no pesticides or herbicides put on it. There still are some, and like I said, that's another reason just to get something from a local farmer or a produce stand, because you'll be able to actually ask them in person what they're putting on their crops, and have a conversation with them, because our farmers, they work hard, and they need to be able to make a living and all of that, and it's very important that we know why they do what they do and the time that they spend doing what they do. So a lot of beef farms are like the mass beef farms their cows are grain fed because it takes a lot less time for them to get their meat out on the market. So Kirsten, I think you know this maybe a little better than I do, but I think it's about a year that you have to be grain fed, and it's like a couple years for a grass fed cow to get out on the market.
It takes longer.
Longer?
Mhm.
Yeah, it does.
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive, it's
Yeah.
more time consuming, but it's a lot higher quality of a product, and it's worth it because in the long run it's about your health. But yeah, that's why grass-fed beef is more expensive than your conventional grain-fed cow beef, because they spend more time with the animal, and they also just don't get as much, as many cows per year as you would if you were grass-fed. Yeah.
I've recently been reading like grass-fed versus grass-finished. Do you
Yep.
know the difference?
Yep, there's a difference. So grass-fed versus grass-finished.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
It's just on labels.
Yeah, it's on labels, yeah.
Oh.
So if you can get grass-fed and grass-finished, that's ideal. The area we live in, that makes it kind of hard because we have winter. So at some point, most animals around here are gonna be somewhat grain-fed. And that's, again, where you can ask those questions. So like if you're buying eggs, you want like free-range chickens, for meat and for eggs. You don't want them to be vegetarian-fed. They should be eating bugs and other things. They shouldn't be eating a vegetarian diet. So if your egg box says vegetarian fed, go to the next one. Find someone that's free range, and then go to your farmer's market, talk to the person selling the eggs, and if they're like, yep, they're free range, and in the winter we feed them organic, blah blah blah, then that's probably going to be your best option for buying some sort of meat or eggs. Unfortunately, where we live, we do have to consume a little bit of grain-fed meat and eggs, but for the most part, when you're concentrating on labeled as grass-fed, for the most of the year, they're going to be grass-fed.
What's the difference between,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to think, what was, for the eggs,
Oh, free range,
yes, free range and cage free.
cage-free. So free range is they're out on their own. Cage-free means that they like basically have space to move. So like they can still be in an enclosure, but they are not in an individual cage.
Okay.
So they're still like, they could be in a big coop, but technically they're not in a cage, they're just in a big coop. So they're not maybe possibly able to eat the outside insects and things like that. So they're probably going to be mostly grain fed or have some sort of soy feed, things like that. Yeah, so free range is what you want to be able to get. And local is better too.
What's the difference between the grass-fed and grass-finished?
They eat beef all year. Or beef.
So the
Grass.
The grass-fed is beef all year, grass-finished is.
Grass fed is going to be, they have some sort of grain in there. Grass finished is they eat grass all the time. Grass fed, grass finished, yeah.
So grass-finished is like top.
yeah, top of the
Okay.
notch. Yeah, and if we lived maybe down south, it'd be a lot easier to have access to that. Some farms around here do that. A couple of places you can go to get local meats are Argus Farms in Ann Arbor, Arbor Farms in Ann Arbor, and then there's a ton of like literally local farms, and I can get you guys lists after this if you want access to the list of different local farmers that have different things. They even have, I know there's a place in Whitmore Lake that like you can go and make your own butter, and you can get the cheese that they make there, things like that. So that's a really good thing to have access to. Then, okay, that's where we start. We want to look at the ingredients, look at sugar, look at the chemicals. Long ingredients list we're ditching, and then we want to look at the label on the front. Are they trying to suck you in with a load of crap? Okay. Next, we're going to look at the actual like nutrition part where it says serving size and all of that. So if you want to reference, the first two on that page are hard to read. If you want to reference to the egg one, I'll go through that one. That's the top one on the second page. So what we want to look at first is we're going to look at the servings per container. So if you're getting a dozen eggs, obviously there's going to be 12 servings in that container. The second thing I'm looking at is the actual serving size. So that's a huge thing. So when you're buying a, let's say, I wonder, oh, give me that chart thing again. Because I wonder if there's serving sizes on here. A lot of things that contain a lot of sugar trick you because they're like, sorry, Facebook. They're like the serving size is, or the serving size is 2 servings per container or something, and you're drinking a pop, and in one serving there's 40 grams of sugar. Well, you're drinking 2 servings in that container of pop, so you're really drinking 80 grams of sugar. So they try to trick us with those labels and be kind of shifty like that. So you want to make sure that you're eating the amount of servings that's actually being recommended. When it comes to healthy foods, like serving size 1 egg, please eat 4 eggs. Like that's okay, because all you're getting is good whole food from that product. You're not getting anything that's added from that product. And then you want to look at, then you want to next go to the sugar and the carbohydrate intake. So after I'm looking at the serving size, I'm going to the sugars and I'm seeing, okay, total sugar is 0 grams. Okay, that's great. Carbs, 0 grams. So, and then also another big one is included added sugars, 0 grams. So if we're looking at something that's more natural and it has fruit in it, so if you get like a date bar, so like we have bars here, they're called like Thunderbird bars, they're made with dates to sweeten them and not sugar. You're going to have some sugar in that, but it's not going to be any added sugar. And that's what we want to pay attention to in particular as well. Because if you're eating something with fruit in it, obviously it's going to have sugar. It's just going to be that added sugar that we want to really avoid. And total sugars too. Like if you're eating a date bar and it has like 40 grams of sugar in it, put the bar down. There's better options. So then after that, we want to just check out those carbohydrates. So like I mentioned before, carbohydrates are inflammatory. They can cause inflammation, and inflammation can cause disease. I'm not saying carbohydrates are bad for us, but we do want to watch them and have them in a moderate amount. When consuming things, you want to start looking at those that carbohydrate in grams. So just making sure that it's low or it's less than the protein and the fat that's being provided for that certain item. So for like this, I'm going to go to the fat, and I have 5 grams of fat, 6 grams of protein, 0 grams of carbs. No ingredients list because it's an egg. So this is a really great item. That's what we want to see. It's what we want to eat. What we're looking at there are what we call macronutrients. So macronutrients are the 3 main nutrients that we're getting our energy from. So that's protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Micronutrients are going to be our vitamins and minerals. And those are things that we also need to get from food. So when you're looking at those macronutrients, we have things that are called essential fatty acids, which are going to be our essential fats, so our good healthy fats. So healthy fats include things like avocados, grass-fed butter, we talked about grass-fed beef, some nuts and seeds, all of that, coconut oil, olive oil, those are all really good healthy fats. And they're essential because our body cannot produce them on their own. We need to consume them from our diet. We also have things called essential amino acids. And essential amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So all in all, essential amino acids are protein. So we have, we have essential amino acids, and those are the protein that we need to get from our food because we will not receive them, our body cannot make them on its own. That's why things like a vegan or a vegetarian diet can be very detrimental to our bodies because we're not receiving a lot of those essential fatty acids and a lot of those essential amino acids. So when we're not getting those, our body's actually breaking down instead of healing. That's actually why I came to Thrive in the first place. I was eating a vegan diet thinking it was good for me because there's a mass amount of information out there. And I started getting really, really sick. And so when I came in, at the time my practitioner was like, you know, you need to start eating more protein. You're really protein deficient. Your body's breaking down. It's not healing. I was working at a CrossFit at the time, really pushing myself. So I was really breaking myself down. Within a week of adding protein back into my diet, my energy like skyrocketed and everything was great again because our body needs those essential amino acids. And no part of a vegetarian diet contains that. You have to get it from meat. So we're meant to eat meat. And then there's no such thing as essential carbohydrates. So that's something to think about. We don't have, our body doesn't require them to survive. So we really love focusing on getting those good fats and the good proteins from our food. That's why I love paying attention to how many carbs. And when it comes to a specific amount, I know that's a lot of people's questions, like, oh, how many grams of carbs, what percentage of carbs, all of that. It's really tailored to your individual body. We find the most success if you're going to count carbs to do it and then kind of realize how you feel on those days. Okay, like when I eat like around 70-ish grams of carbs a day, those are when I have my most energy or have the most energy and I'm able to function at a higher level. When I'm eating more carbohydrates, it's depleting my energy faster and I'm getting tired more so throughout the day than I would if I'm running on the good fat and protein. So it's all individual and it's something that we would be able to work on if you started a program. Next we'll go on to some fiber. So dietary fiber is important. We want to have fiber. Helps our bowels move, helps us get things out that may be stuck and we don't want that. So what we want to do is look at fiber intake, and that's also a good thing to do because what you can do with fiber is you can take that and subtract it from your carbohydrates that you're eating, and you're going to get what we call your net carbs. So if my goal is to eat 70 grams of carbs a day, but I eat 30 grams of fiber along with that, then really I'm only eating 40 grams of carbohydrates a day. So I could eat like 100 grams of carbs, and if that 30 grams of fiber is there, then I'll have my goal of 70. Because what's happening is probably most of that fiber is coming from vegetables, so it's coming from a really good source. That's also a thing that obviously we want to focus on. We don't really count calories around here, so fun, join us. We won't make you count calories. What we are focusing on is the quality, not the quantity. So the quality is the most important thing because our body can store things if it's good energy. So they can store essential fatty acids for energy and burn it more quickly and efficiently once it gets into that system. A lot of our bodies are used to burning carbohydrates because we have such a high carbohydrate intake. So when you're switching systems, sometimes it takes our body a second to go from burning carbs to burning fat, but once it does, you're better able to use your energy more efficiently. You're going to have higher energy. It's going to be more sustainable. That's like one of the first things I do working with patients. I turn their breakfast from things like pastries and muffins into things like eggs and bacon and sausage because you want those really good fat and protein in the morning to sustain energy throughout the day.
So if you exercise,
Yeah.
say like 5 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
do you can still say eat protein,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want carbs? Because you know
Yeah.
how like
That's a good question. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
the energy.
Yeah, the energy. Yeah. So, depends on the intensity of the exercise. If you're exercising like 5 days a week, and you're just kind of doing like, you know, your average like workout type
Yeah,
of
like,
thing.
uh-huh.
Yeah, just like an hour or something. I would recommend having a little more carbohydrate intake. Yep. So you're going to be burning more than if you weren't doing the workouts.
Right.
But I would still recommend keeping that on the low side. Unless like if you're like an NFL athlete, you know,
Yeah,
they're
like
they're
you're
burning a ton. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, just like your average workout, I would
Right.
still keep it on the lower side, and eventually what your body does is it learns to burn the fat instead of the carbs.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna have
Yeah.
better energy in your workouts. There will be a transition period though. So like you'll probably go through, if you switch to a higher fat, higher protein diet, you'll go through a 4 to a 6 week period, honestly, where your body is working its way over. So you may experience fatigue right away in your workouts, and then eventually that picks back up once your body kind of reboots its metabolism,
Right.
basically.
Getting used to.
Yeah, but that's a good question.
Okay.
Yep, and then when you're getting those when you're getting your food from carbs, you still want to focus on things like vegetables, sweet potatoes. If you're able to digest them properly, things like quinoa and rice and things would be a better source of
Right.
carbs for somebody who is working out. Okay, and then like we talked about, when you're looking at that label, you want to make sure that the protein and the fat is going to be higher than the carbs or right around it, because we want to make sure that we're getting good energy from our food. And the easiest thing to do is just avoid processed food altogether, because if you don't have to read a label, then obviously it makes it so much easier. Shop on the outside of the store and really get those things that have the fewest ingredients possible. You want to make sure that when you are shopping on the outside of the store, though, because they're catching on, those marketing people, you got to just make sure you look. They'll stick the little side things when you're, you know, popping around the vegetables. Oh, please enjoy these crackers with your spinach. No, don't do that. Okay, and then let's see. Anything else I want to talk about? We kind of talked about things that trick us, different healthy foods. Things like dyes are really bad for us, and the chemicals that are added. But that's about everything that you need to know to read that nutrition label. I've mostly focused on those 3 main categories: is the fat, the carbs, and the protein. So the macronutrients are important, but we're gonna get those if we're eating whole foods. So if you're eating things like grains, vegetables, fruits, and all those types of things, you're gonna be getting those vitamins and minerals from those, because they're so potent within the vegetables and whatnot.
So do you do a lot of the keto? Do a lot of people here?
Do
I mean,
keto?
how did you get them to start?
Yeah,
I mean,
like if you were gonna pick a diet type of thing. So
yeah, because a lot of it sounds similar.
to keto.
Because I've read,
Yeah.
I've read about.
So
It's just the healthy fats.
healthy fats. So keto,
I know it's a fad.
it's a fad. So, but it's a start. If somebody came in and they were doing a keto diet, like I wouldn't be mad about that.
Right.
But also sometimes it becomes an excuse to eat a lot of cheese and a lot of milk.
Yeah.
Which
it just
can,
seems so much.
it is,
Some
it's a
people I
lot.
know do it, and I'm like,
Right? So much cheese and milk. So I would say if you're going to look up a diet in kind of reference to different things, that paleo would be more the way to go.
oh,
You're gonna
yeah.
be removing all refined foods with a paleo diet, and you're going to be eating basically good fats, good meats, good vegetables.
Yeah.
And that's more so along the terms of what we preach here and what works for patients. What's the most healing?
Yeah. Because I see these people, like, I follow some, on Instagram.
Yeah.
This girl, she lost a ton of weight. That's what her goal was.
Yeah.
But then she'll post pictures of her food and everything. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So short term,
I mean-
keto you can see changes short term with keto.
Right.
Keto is actually developed for epilepsy because
Oh,
it's such
yeah.
high fat that it's really great for your brain. So your
Yeah.
brain's fat and water. So another reason people get brain fog a lot is because they eat too many carbohydrates, because you're not getting enough essential fatty acids for your brain to function the way it needs to be. So keto was made for epilepsy. So short term,
Too, I remember reading that.
yeah, short term keto can be okay for some people, and by short term I mean like no longer than 6 months. It can kind of start your weight loss journey, reboot your metabolism. But I would definitely recommend looking at your sources of where you're getting your food, because a lot of those processed cheeses and milks are not going to be that great for
They
your
have,
gut.
I know shredded cheese has
Mhm.
potato starch in it.
Yep, it does.
I figured that out.
They
So
put a bunch
you
of
gotta
crap.
shred your own.
Yep, I would buy
Which I need to start. It's like I forget. You know, you
right?
just grab
Yeah,
it.
grab it. Yep, habits totally. I would start with, like, if you do cheese, like raw milk cheese is going to be the most ideal, because it's not pasteurized milk. It's going to be unpasteurized, so it was never heated at such a
Raw
high
milk.
temperature. Yeah, raw milk cheese. It's
Oh.
really delicious too. It's
I've never even heard of that.
oh, it's so good. You'll get it at places like Whole Foods or
Yeah.
Arbor Farms or things like that. But yeah, keto is definitely. I'll say it's better than the standard American diet.
Right.
But it's needs some modifications for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Okay, Facebook, we're gonna wrap up, and then our next seminar is going to be on heart health, and that's on October 2nd, I believe, and we'll get you more information on that coming out. Thanks for coming.